This is what we will make a mechanical rig for aircraft. We can start by placing bones for each mesh part. Add an armature, then go in edit mode for your mesh. Select the part where you want to add the bone, press Shift S, cursor to selected. This will move the 3D cursor here. Select your armature, go into edit mode, press Shift A, and if we check in front, we can see we added a bone here with Shift A. Now we can select our mesh again, go in edit mode, select the bottommost part, Shift S, cursor to selected. You can then go in armature, edit mode, select the tail of your bone, Shift S, selection to cursor. This will move bone's head to the 3D cursor. And we can repeat the same process for every part that you need to move in your rig. Now that we have our bones, we can start parent and controls. Just select your armature, go in edit mode, parent this bone, keep parenting each bone to their next ones, how you want them to move. This is test your bones repeatedly to check if they're working correctly. Our bones are parented. Now we can make the controls. We want this bone chain to move with this. So we can do it by adding a new bone here. We will use this as a controller. This will be an IK bone chain. So select this small bone, shift select this one, press shift I and add to active. This will make IK control. Go in constraint and set chain length to how many bones you have. And this takes tool and then parent this bone to this bar. And then we move this, it will move the other bones. Next, we need to add an IK chain on this one. So we can use this bone as the controller, then shift select, press shift I, active, set the chain length to a tool. And then we can test it, it's working fine. Now we can parent the mesh to the bones. Now that our rig is working, we can move on to the final step, which is making the controller for this rig. Add a new one. I'll just use this existing one. We can do it by two ways. One is drivers and the other is constraints. We don't need drivers for something as simple as this. We can just use constraints. Go in pose mode, add a keyframe to however you want the controller to move it. So we have to make an action first. Then we will use the action constraint to set this up with the controller. So we want our rig to move like this. So add a keyframe, rotation, frame 10, move it a bit up, rotation. We can name this action gear off, on, unlink the action. Now we have to add an action constraint on the bone that we keyframed, set the target to this bone. This channel is if we want to move it on X, Y, or Z. In this case, we want to move it on local Y axis, make it Y location and local space. And this range is how much you want to move it on local Y axis. We can make it just 1. If we move it up by 1 like this, it will control the rig. And select the action that we just made. Set the keyframes to how many keyframes there were in our action. Make it 10. And now when we move it on local y-axis, it controls our rig.